a bit late so that we had more people in the audience, but to respect those who are online and to respect our speakers, we are going to start the panel. I would like to thank ABPI for inviting me to moderate this panel. The theme is innovations in the agro-industry. It's a relevant theme, especially in Brazil. Agro is one of the pillars of the economic force of Brazil. It's responsible for 20% of our jobs, 25% of the GDP. It has been growing sustainably in the last 2 decades. It's a very competitive area, and the success has to do with 3 different factors. We have to mention them: the expertise, the force, the resilience of the Brazilian farmers, and the presence of public policies, of incentive, and the theme that is most interesting to us, the investment in research and development of new technologies to make the production more efficient, with less waste in the field, and to promote the sustainable use of natural resources. The new technologies have changed agro-business, how you produce in the field new products, new processes, and new business models. It is a very rich subject, but our time is short, so I'm going to be brief. I want to present our speakers, who are illustrious people who have come from far away to discuss with us this important theme to the Brazilian reality. Here, I would like to,
He's a PhD, LLB, with rich experience in the field of intellectual properties. Vishal brings with him 21 years of IP experience in global markets from agrochemical and pharma industry. He has also expertise in building strategic patent portfolio, working with researchers. Vishal is currently working as global IP head and heading global IP department for UPL Limited, the 5th largest agrochemical company. And over there, temos o Ícaro Leonardo da Silva.
We have Ícaro Leonardo da Silva, Global Director of Patents for Ericsson, and he works with the 5G standard. He is one of the inventors of 5G, and he is one of the most important inventors of Ericsson. In 2019, he was elected Inventor of the Year, and he coordinates groups of work in 5G. And he has done several different talks in Brazil and abroad, and he talks about the SEPs, and it's important for Brazil and the world. Ícaro is Brazilian from Fortaleza, but he lives in Stockholm. He studied in Ceará, he studied in Lyon in France, and he has invented many patents.
Vishal, please come on. I'll hand to you. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I hope all of you had a good rest yesterday night. It was a lovely evening with most of you. And I'm going to speak on a very important topic, innovation in agriculture. Why it's important? Because it's connected with our food. So it's so important, and kind of the ongoing challenges, how we innovate, and how it's going to help the society. So it's a topic on which I'm going to talk. Before that, I have a small video, so let's go through that and then go through the topic.
Our planet faces challenges like never before. Soil health, water supply, food security, and of course, climate change. Agriculture, our deepest connection to the planet, must be part of the solution. Open Ag is an open network to reimagine sustainability for all. No limits, no borders. But sustainability means more than climate change. It means reducing agriculture's environmental impact, building the economic resilience of farmers, and ensuring food supply chains are secure. UPL is changing agriculture for the better on small and large farms around the world. With a farmer-first mindset and programs like Pronitiva that integrate conventional crop protection solutions and bios, farmers enjoy more yields with lower residues and increased profits. NPP is a world leader in biosolutions, collaborating with partners to meet the needs of farmers and protect our planet for future generations. Zeba's climate-smart technology acts like a sponge in the ground, so water is conserved and soil aerated even in the driest locations. Nurture Farm is a pioneering digital platform connecting the smallest of farms to the technology, finance, and buyers they need to thrive. Increasing the number of women working in agriculture, providing learning, independence, and empowerment. Our End the Burn campaign to stop stubble burning in India is making farming cleaner, so people can breathe a little easier. DECO works with food producers and local communities to improve food security and reduce post-harvest losses, helping to lower the third of food currently wasted globally. So there's more fresh food for everyone, everywhere. UPL's Gigaton Carbon Goal sees us bringing together farmers, the technologies and partnerships to remove 1 gigaton of CO2 from the atmosphere by 2040. So together, we can safeguard our future. Reimagining sustainability. Open Ag.
So I think this video gives a lot of insight, the kind of challenges which agriculture industry is going to face and how innovation is going to be important for the agriculture business. So I think before going through the kind of innovation cycle and the IP ecosystem which is going to play a role, it's very important that we first understand the challenges in the agriculture industry. So I think food security, that's the first point which I would like to take you through. The kind of food wastage globally happening is a 30 billion ton. And then imagine the next century where we will have 11 billion of population and 33 billion meals per day would be required. So it's so important that agriculture industry work on various solutions that help to cater the food in everyone's plate. Food is very important. So after that, the sustainability. I think basic two commodities, air and water. It's depend on agriculture, right? So 30% of global greenhouse gases, and agriculture accounts around 70% of water usage worldwide. Food safety, unsafe food is not good for anyone. So how we can get the healthy food and the food with the right, coming from the right quality of the land and water, it's so critical. Every year, if you are connected with the growers or the farmers, you can learn about the various diseases. I have given one example here is the rice blast disease, which takes 30% of the rice production globally. Now in Brazil, I think most of you are aware about the Asian soybean rust disease, and that's one of the big challenge. So it's very important that those pest management. Now, how we can address the kind of challenges in agriculture industry? It's going to be the way of innovation, and how the innovation cycle will be boosted. It's by IP ecosystem. So IP ecosystem based enable solutions. It's going to be the key in next coming years, and that's why all of you in this room is going to play a big role, because the way you protect, the way you help your client on protecting those inventions, and that's going to bring the life to the innovation cycle. So we need a sustainable innovation model, and that's why it's very important to have a robust IP ecosystem in various countries. So strategies to cater agri challenges. So I think the entire flow of the presentation is based on the first to identify the pain points, then identify the solutions for that. So if somebody is just doing a research on a product-based research, and then see how it will address the different solution, different diseases in the market, so it's not going to work. So it's very important that we understand the pain points of growers in the agriculture industry, and then work on the solutions. Starts from the sustainability, the various drought technology. I think water scarcity is going to be a challenge, and that's why various technology is required. In UPL we have Ziba that absorb the water and release the water whenever the crops under stress. So it's so important. Soil health, the kind of meals would be required per day. Soil need to be fertile, and that's why it's so important to maintain the soil health. And that's why various initiatives to maintain the soil health is so important. Nature-based solutions, we need to balance the use of chemicals also, and that's why the biosolutions are going to play a big role. Green formulations, that's part of that strategy, and very important to maintain the carbon footprint. On the food security part, crops with higher output traits, we need to continue working on the seed business, various traits which can provide the higher yields. It's so important. Reduce the phytotoxicity, need to work out the right balance to use the chemicals to reduce the phytotoxicity. Safe and effective transportation is extremely critical, and that's why in UPL we have entire value chain from the seed business to crop protections, followed by the post-harvest solutions. If you have food produce, and the most of the countries have big infrastructure issues, and how the food will reach to the end user, that's so important. That's why the post-harvest solutions critical in the agriculture business. Food safety, so post-harvest solutions, climate-tolerant plants. All of us are aware about the climate change situation, and we need to make sure that the plants are healthy enough to resist those changes. Alternate farming techniques, it's a lot of research is happening, and that's going to play a big role. Digital solutions, how digital solutions would be used in the farming sector, it's very important. Early prediction of the disease, and to make our growers ready to face those challenges, that's very critical. From the pest management point of view, novel active ingredients, that would be the requirement to address the solutions which need to identify the pain points. So that's very critical. Effective combinations and precisions in agriculture, disease prediction. A lot of solutions, a lot of satellite mapping and new technologies are helping growers about planning their agriculture work and the kind of disease pest attack and all other things. That's going to be very important. Targeted application, drones and other technology is going to help growers to cover the acreage spraying the chemicals. So that's going to be very important. So these are the various strategies to cater the agri challenges. Now, when we have a kind of big challenge in coming years from the food security point of view, and if you are continue with the kind of traditional agriculture practice, it's not going to help us to serve the kind of food requirement in coming years. That's why the innovation is very important. That's why the adoption of the new technology is so critical. So there are AgTech, Biotech and the Green Tech options available. The kind of robotic technology, agriculture drone, remote sensing, data storage and analytics. It's going to play a big role, and to learn about the various pattern of the climate change situations and the running those algorithm and all other things, it's going to play a big role. On the biotech front, GM technologies, it's going to be important than various available gene editing tools, bioinformatics, and very recently RNAi technologies. I think most of you are aware about the RNAi technology, which has played a big role in the COVID vaccinations and all other things. So it's going to be very critical. And need to be continued with the green chemistry and the biosolutions. That's going to play a big role, but alone that may not help to control the disease. That's why in UPL we have a pro-nutriva concept that mix the chemicals and the biologics to give a right balance to the growers to control the disease. Now this is very important, that how we can continue the IP based innovation cycle. We need a self-sustained ecosystem where the innovation cycle get continue with various challenges in the industry, and R&D and innovation, IP protection is going to be very critical. Now a lot of investment goes in the innovation, and how one can get the kind of sustainable cycle for the reinvestment of the revenue. It's going to play a big role. So IP protection is very critical, and everyone like to have the investment from the outside in various countries, and this investment will come when we have a robust IP system. The intellectual property system, how robust is that, and how it provides the protections, how the patents get granted early, and that's going to play a big role. So when we talk about innovation in general, it's going to be IP-based ecosystem that's going to drive the entire innovation cycle. So now if we can go to recap one thing, first is the pain point, to identify the grower's pain point, the market need, then design your solution, then adopt all the new technologies and protect those technologies. So at least those who are in the innovation cycle, they get limited monopoly for their inventions and can use the revenue coming out of those technologies. It's going to be very important. We have to continuously innovate and address the pain points. So that's very important. That's why IP protection is going to play a big role, and that's why how the patent offices, how the IP ecosystem in various countries going to give the protection to the innovation. It's going to be very critical. So strong IP protections play a critical role in doing the innovation cycle. IP enable the manufacturer to sustain the long complex molecules. Manufacturing those molecules is very critical, and the availability. And when you see from the entire value chain, it starts from the seed business. The right quality of the seeds is an important requirement, then followed by the agrochemicals to manage the pest control, and then followed by the post-harvest solutions. So these are the entire value chain of agrochemicals, agriculture business, and how it can get connected. And each area requires the innovation, and each area of innovation cycle is requires to be protection. So this is very critical, and And the way I told all of you in this room is going to play a big role, because the IP ecosystem driven by the IP experts and how you work with your clients, those are in-house counsel, how they protect their innovation coming out from the research, it's going to play a big role. So that's why how we are working in UPL as the kind of various platform which we have created, keep working with the growers and helping them on addressing the pain points. For us, pain point based research is so important, that we understand the requirement of the market, understand the disease, and then accordingly provide the right solution. So just to conclude what I have covered in last few slides, is to understand the pain points of growers, then work out the solutions, and on those innovation cycle need to be continued with the protected by the IP ecosystem. If this continue in the countries where the right IP ecosystem, innovation cycle will continue, the solutions would be available to the agriculture industry, and it will serve the purpose of sustainable food availability. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much ABPI for inviting to this Congress. It's really good learning while interacting with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vishal. Great presentation. We can see a glimpse of what's coming ahead for agribusiness, right? Now, Ícaro, please. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Vishal, for the inspiring presentation. It's quite interesting. It gives us sometimes a bit of sense of purpose that sometimes we need in our jobs, in our professions, to understand a bit what are we doing beyond just like filing patents, right? So then when you see all the innovation and the point that you make about the importance of food and the fact that we were going to need more food in the future, and the only way to get that is through innovation, it's a very important point. And I feel proud sometimes that we're working with technology, and when we make these connections with society, with our lives, this sense of purpose, I think makes us move forward. Before I start my presentation, I would like to switch to my mother language. It's not often that I give speeches in Portuguese, so you will excuse me. Muito obrigado pela presença.
So thank you very much for your presence here. I know this is the first panel after the party we had yesterday. We had quite a few people considering the circumstances. And I don't know if that's because of some friendship we started last night, or if agro is really pop, as they say here, or because of both things. It's a quite popular subject here in Brazil. I'm called Ícaro. I've been presented. I will talk about 5G, agro, and IP licensing. When Gabriel invited me to talk about 5G, I said, well, I feel comfortable about it. I've been working since 5G was just a research topic in Europe, in MATS and MATS2 back in 2015. And since the beginning, I realized that the agro applications would be interesting, and I sort of follow what was happening in Brazil, because 5G was the first technology of this new generation for cell technologies, where we decided to think about the system since the beginning for industrial applications. This would mean to connect robots in a plant, other types of equipment that would work inside the plant through Wi-Fi technologies or even cable. So we wanted to replace this by cell phone technology. Despite the benefits and the improvements we had and the industrial applications we already have for 5G, the discussions that occurred is perhaps this is not the main benefit, because one of the main characteristics of cell technology is the coverage, the fact that you can implement a network in low frequencies that can cover a huge area. So that's why who will gonna benefit from that? Not only small and medium companies, but it's so-called big industries like a big factory, like a farm, before and after the inputs are used. So there was this understanding that these macro logistic applications would be interesting for the ideal scenario for the 5G technology. And not only 5G, but cell technology in general. But at the same time, when I was invited, I felt like talking a little bit about IP. And I have to think a lot because I couldn't find in the literature many things about this. So I talked to other colleagues, and I'll talk to you about some of those points. I'll talk about SAPs. I'll try to make some considerations about this debate in Brazil and make some connections. The first message I'd like to share with you is that still there is a huge innovation potential in the agribusiness through cell phone technology. When I say that we still have, I mean that there are already some of those applications, but the potential to grow is even bigger. I believe that the best way to create innovation in this scenario is to start to use it. If you realize the transition from 3 to 4G, and when the first smartphones appear in the market, that's when people realize what they have in hand and realize that, well, this technology allows me to do this and that. So I really believe that there's still a huge potential, and this will only occur when people who work with innovation in the field start to use it. That's where they get to know the potential and will think about new applications to be used. I like to say that telecom industry is very good in innovation, but not so good in trying to foresee the applications for that technology. We depend on an ecosystem for those applications, but we still have this huge potential. This is just some examples of applications of the cell phone in the agribusiness, because many of these applications that we use in the field can be done through 4G. And when people use the technology, that's when they will realize the next step they have to take. High rates for data transmission. We have examples like digital maps. We use navigation applications when we use a car, or even when we go by foot, Here's the same thing. The vehicles on the field have to know about the map of the farm, of the big factory, which is the rural property. So we have to map this area. And this is another application for cell phones. Photographs, digital maps, real-time video. We talk about drones and machinery. There are some application for pest control when there is this kind of equipment, trying to monitor when there is a problem that has to be tackled. So we can detect this quicker in a more effective way without the need of human intervention. The worker can focus in other types of work. Low latency for cloud processing. Heavy processing for image, again, pest controls. In some scenarios, you need high-resolution images of the area. Low latency for critical process control, operation, maintenance, video based on maintenance. Heavy video, when you are operating in the download of the video as well as in the upload of the video. We also have another example here, which is maintenance of these equipment, where companies that manufacture them need to know the performance of those vehicles. What do they need? If they need an update of software, for instance. Coverage from the far to the final destination. This is one of the advantages of the cell phone. We talk about everything that goes in and out. Even it's all integrated, even voice. Sometimes this type of communication is necessary, and it's done through the cell phone. And everything that can be measured will have a sensor. People, machine, soil, food, who knows? Everything has a sensor.
What makes the cell technology more interesting than other alternatives? First, the flexibility. You have SMS, that's very simple, or any data transmission that is small, but you can come to 5G applications of low latency, high-resolution imaging, so you encompass a variety of possibilities with this same technology without having to use others. Sometimes people ask me, why not use satellites? Satellites cover some kind of application, but they are very expensive and they cannot encompass every application because of the low bandwidth and latency. Coverage is attractive, but is a challenge. Mobility, we know that the coverage is long, so the vehicles have to move and go on servicing the area. Safety, that is very important. The systems are global systems. They are highly tested. They are robust against any kind of hacking or even sabotage. The farmer doesn't want to run the risk of being sabotaged. Resilience, we are part of a global ecosystem, and that's very important. The 5G in Brazil is the same one in the US and in China. We are talking about global systems. 5G is just one and only system, and that's very good. I've talked about satellites, fiber, no mobility, and the cost is very high. You have to dig and put fiber in the field, and so you would have to put the fiber in a place, in an area. You have to dig again and change the place of the fiber. So radio cell technology is very attractive. But of course, there are technological challenges in the applications, but there are challenges that go beyond that. One of the biggest challenges is the business model for agribusiness. On the right in this photograph, you have the map of the distribution of the population in Brazil, and on the left, the radio-based distribution in Brazil. What can we see? We see that there are more coverage where there are more people. Why? This is the business model of a classical operator or carrier that that put the base station where there are people, because then they sell their subscriptions and then they make money. But the consequence is that where you have less people, the coverage is harmed. And what happens in Brazil, and this is very specific of Brazil, the areas where the agro business is more concentrated is where you have less people and the coverage is smaller. So it's difficult for a rural producer say, well, I'm going to do that and I'm going to buy a ship and put a ship and that's it. I'll pay 50 reais. I don't know the value of a ship in Brazil, but I'm going to pay very little and put the ship in the equipment and it's going to work. But if there's no coverage, what is the alternative? This person has to talk to the operator, to the carrier, to think about new business models, perhaps a network totally dedicated to his farm or to several other farmers in the same area, but then the cost is going to be higher. And that's the difficulty of the entrepreneur in a farm to understand that this is a different business model. Another alternative would be a private network in a different frequency. 5G auction foresaw that, but the frequencies are very high. You have 3.5 giga and you need several bases, so it's not viable. So this is the greatest challenge of the implementation of 5G in agribusiness. Now let's talk about licensing. We are in a IP conference. We have to talk about SEPs, but licensing of SEPs will facilitate the innovation of 5G as a whole. I'm talking about agribusiness because that's what I'm told to talk about. But those who financed 5G research were the licensing from 4G. If you want to have a 6G someday, we have to stimulate or protect the licensing of 5G, because this will finance the new applications like in the agribusiness and will finance the new research for the system to evolve so that we have another cycle of technology innovations with more applications. This is to explain to you that at least in Ericsson, part of our licensing is reinvested in R&D. I think that this is a reality of part of the telecom industry. When we are part of 3GPP, and when we signed the FRAN commitment to license our patents, we have two ways. We want to license if we have a return on investment in R&D. When we don't have that, it's not interesting. And the community of innovators will lose, and society as a whole also will lose, because they won't have access to innovation that this industry has been producing for the last 30 years. Last year I put the photograph of the big cell phone, or I put the music of the internet in a road. In the agribusiness, we talk about solving global hunger and so on and so forth. It's a major evolution, but we need research, we need investment, we have to hire researchers, and this comes from the program of licensing that we have. This is an example how we work with agribusiness. We have a partnership with John Deere and Ericsson to research in the agribusiness. The first dimension is to show that our licensing in the telecom industry finances partnerships such as these through equipment to dedicated researchers. And another dimension is when 5G is going to think about innovation and application in other industries, people from the telecom industry doesn't have the expertise to think about that alone. We need partnership. In this case, we have a partnership with John Deere to think together about new solutions. Using the equipment that we already have, we experiment and try to find new solutions. How do we imagine the licensing of SEPs for agribusiness? I'm not going to mention a specific case. I'm sorry for that. But the first thing is that licensing would be in the final products. We are talking about the equipment that would be connected, the tractors, the crop machines, the drones, the vehicles, everything that can be connected to a platform in an agro-industry. It's not the rural producer, but those who are the vehicles makers. 5G could be there. I'm not going to talk about that. But in our case, this is the model that we envisioned. A model of licensing based in a pool of patents. In some cases, it's already happening, where the pools are used for the vehicles in the field. We have vehicles in the field, so the model is going to be similar to the ones that we have for Avanci, to connect the vehicles in the field. We have some solutions of the Internet of Things, LTE, and machines. We can have alternatives to use pools like Sisvel. Some implementers say that pools are a way out, but pools are a good way to be used in some context, but sometimes we cannot substitute a bilateral negotiation. People said that FRAN is only about royalties. No, a bilateral negotiation involves hundreds of parameters that go beyond royalties. We have technological exchanges, know-how, we have tests. In some contexts, they are only royalties, but in our context, it goes beyond that. So those are the two models that will be used. But many of those farmers have different equipments. They have vehicles, they have drones, and it makes no sense to license one and each one of them. Perhaps you can license all of them. In the context of SEPs in Brazil, the essential patents. The Brazilian courts are involved in some disputes of SEPs in the last few years. The SEP holders want to make their rights be enforced. The SEP holders want to have lawsuits and have injunctions like a threat. But in our context, and I can only talk in my context, there is a long negotiation of 2, sometimes 3 years. On average, we have years of negotiation until there is litigation. And when there is litigation, it occurs when we have no other alternatives for negotiating, and we don't come to a common or consensus, and it is our right to go to the courts. There are many debates and articles defending that. I'm exaggerating a bit, but there is a balance. The fact that I'm talking about that is a way of having some sort of balance. I've been talking with a few of you about that, and we've been following what's happening.
If you look at the amount of implementing companies and those who hold SAPs, there's a big difference, so they should have an active voice. There's a report of INPI about 5G. This shows the interest of the different agencies. The fact that INPI is interested and talk about 5G shows that this is a subject that is hot in Brazil. Technical dialogues about SAPs in the JIP, in this group, we were invited, and it was interesting. One of the conclusions is that there's still no need to change the IP legislation in Brazil so far. we believe that legislate about SAPs may generate some imbalances. There's a proposal from European Union to legislate the SAPs, and this is very much criticized. I compare with the Game of Thrones. The first part is very interesting, but at the end it's all in a hush, and that's the idea we have. Some principles are interesting in the beginning, but the way to execute them perhaps is a little bit in a hush without taking into account all the different aspects. One of the reasons we criticize is that it may generate some imbalance, and this would encourage abuse by some of the users or implementers. When you create mechanisms that make it more complex until it comes to the time of a license, it all delays the process, and it forces the SAP holder to accept any proposal that is not fair. And this is what happens. We see this in the literature. We must be attentive to this abuse. I've talked about the holdout. Some companies use it to avoid or delay payment of royalties for as long as possible. I will skip this slide so that we can conclude, and I will kind of provoke about what was said yesterday. This is a very dry subject, but I guess we have to discuss it in a friendly way. What if we decrease those legal mechanisms to protect the SCP holders in Brazil? Let's say injunctions are over. What would be the consequences of that? That's my own opinion. I put it between commas, the devaluation of the SAPs in Brazil. If I cannot do it in Brazil, if perhaps this occurred in Brazil, if I can have an injunction, or if it takes too long to go to court in Brazil, it's no longer interesting to do it in Brazil. Then there is a devaluation. That's what I believe. Some people think about it. I don't know. It's very difficult, but this is a consequence. Second thing is a gradual reduction of the importance of Brazil in the SAP international scenario. We have been having more discussion about this. If it happens, it's over. What are we going to talk about if nothing is happening about SAPs in Brazil? And also the reduction of innovation level or indexes in Brazil. There will be less submissions, and Brazil would not be an interesting place to discuss SAPs. It won't be the end of it, but people will go to other jurisdictions, and Brazil will not be interesting for innovation of telecom industry. That's why I think we should take it with a grain of salt. We should be careful. That's the main reflection I'd like to give with you after the presentation of yesterday. You are the companies that work for us, for the industry in Brazil in general. That's all. Thank you very much.
Obrigada, Ícaro. Foi ótimo.
Thank you, Ícaro. Very good. Well, now we will open the floor for questions from the audience. And if you are online, please ask your questions. If we have time, I will present them to the speakers.
Alguma pergunta? Algum comentário?
Any questions or comments? Yes, Gabriel, please. Parabéns, Vishal.
I really enjoyed
Eu gostei muito
learning so much.
de aprender
And Ícaro,
tanto.
precise
E
as always.
Ícaro também, preciso
I'd
como
like to
sempre.
hear from both of you or
any one of you regarding one aspect. Often when we approach business people, owners of agricultural businesses, and we have to explain well, you have to pay a license fee for this or that. This is intellectual property. You need to negotiate. And then I often listen. But I have a license. Oh, you have a license for what? Oh, I have a license for that. And then I have to say, well, but you need another license for this. And they have a kind of low level of understanding of the various IP rights and the various stakeholders that need to be duly compensated. And very soon, it doesn't matter if they are paying too much or too little, because most of them are really paying too little. It's not really a lot of money, but they don't like the idea that they need several different licenses. So I think we have a lot of work to do in terms of bringing to the countryside the understanding of the need for them to be more sophisticated in their negotiations, because they are already sophisticated in many aspects of their operations. Brazil is a world leader in many agro-businesses, but in terms of intellectual property, I'm feeling this deficit. Do you agree with me?
This is a great question, and this is something which need to be addressed by the companies. We, as a company, UPL, realize that the kind of unmet requirement for the food industry, the kind of the requirement which a company has to serve or the society has to serve, it can't be done alone. It requires a collaboration. And that's why we reinvent ourselves with the open egg purpose. And this open egg purpose is so powerful that we believe that the collaborations with the industry, the collaboration with the technology provider. Now it's a very different industry. We always talk about the innovation, but we also need to be aware about the value innovation. The value innovation is something where the technology is a part of that, and the technology-driven society comes from the smaller organizations, come from the small industry, come from the universities sometime, and it's required to value those innovations, have to have that will to collaboration with them. And that's why we develop a completely new model, that open egg system, where we are open for the open collaboration, open to help the players to evaluate those technologies and all other things. And that's why open a completely new R&D center, where we just help them to evaluate those technologies. Some organizations coming up with really nice technology, but they don't have commercial penetration, and that's why the bigger players can collaborate with them and provide that platform that can help them to monetize whatever the technology which they have come out, and that will indirectly going to contribute to the IP ecosystem, which is going to drive the innovation for the agriculture industry. So I fully agree with you. It's require a very open mindset. And that's why as a company, UPL, we started doing that. And last, I think 4 or 5 years, our experience is amazing. We have helped various players to, evaluate those technology. We have collaborated with them. There is a model where we are taking care about those players, making them, the kind of commercial advantage to them also. So I think industry has to change the mindset. There has to be an open mindset where everyone wants to collaborate, and there should be a respect for the IP rights of the players who have developed the technology, and there should be a kind of collaborations and to pay them whatever is required from the license fees, or you can commercially collaborate with them and all other things. So as a company, UPL, we believe in it, and that's why we have complete system on place that address this requirement. Thank you.
Bom, pessoal, mais alguma pergunta?
Any further questions?
Bom dia, Evelyn Montelano.
Good morning, I'm Evelyn Montelano. I'd like to congratulate both speakers and ask my question to Ícaro and to the panel as a whole. If Vishal and Isabel can comment also. Obrigado.
Trabalho
60 years, or maybe
alguns retrocessos
we
na pesquisa e desenvolvimento no Brasil.
acho que eles não estão ouvindo.
Like pharmacos, biotechnology, and also the industry of oil and gas. Like Ícaro said, I hope it doesn't happen, but perhaps in the industry of telecom, due to some positions they take vis-à-vis injunctions and other initiatives that we have seen. Like Ícaro said, it's a very sensitive issue that is dealt with seriousness, like with companies like Ericsson, the atmosphere in some countries. Ícaro, could you say something about companies like Ericsson make their decisions in terms of investments that is done in Brazil, cause and effect, research and development, research and investment?
Thank you for your presentation.
Well, your question was very good, but I think Brazil is interesting for us, first of all, because it's a huge market and has a fantastic human potential. Our professionals are praised all over the world. And the research and development of Brazil with Sweden, the US and China, and the researchers in Brazil research the same thing that we do in Sweden. So there is an integration. That's where we start. We are interested in the professionals that are formed in Brazil. But when you have fiscal incentive policies, we try to explore. Ericsson is one of the few companies of telecom that has a research center in Brazil, and we have first findings also in Brazil. We invest not only in Sweden, but also in other countries, such as Brazil. We have in Brazil more than 390 collaborators. We have actions with the universities. We have an integrated center, and we try to contribute to the levels of INPI in Brazil. We have Brazilian researchers working and engaged in new researchers. And the risk of the country ended up or making it difficult to make difficult the use of these mechanisms of enforcement. Of course, this makes us wonder if we should invest in filings in Brazil, not only R&D that leave the brains in Brazil, because we have the brain evasion. And we always talk about that because I live in Sweden. And I say the fact that we have research centers in Brazil makes Brazil have inventors. We have PhD, we have doctors that are not in academia, and they are not going to abandon the scientific career. They become inventors, and they grow economically because part of the royalties goes to the inventors. So licensing stimulates, fosters innovation, and the culture stays in-house. But we need those mechanisms. I think that when we talk about that, it's that our position is that we cannot make something very banal, like the injunctions. We don't discuss criteria. We say, well, Mr. Judge, just free an injunction for me. I'm not a lawyer, but that's my interpretation when I hear some speeches about that. And I know it's not like that. I know there is a criterion. We have to show evidence. And when say, no, but we need expertise. We've been talking for 2 years sometimes, explaining, answering questions, and the company has qualified engineers to come to a good conclusion. But just to sum up, I think that we need to foster the culture of innovation in this country. And those two issues cannot be different. The litigation and failure. No, we are talking about the same thing, the very same thing.
Vishal would like to.
Yeah, I think Ícaro has covered very well, and it's so important that when we have a robust IP ecosystem which provides the protections, and when there is a violation, there should be a rights for the enforcement. So I think this balance the innovation cycle where if the companies have spent so much time on the innovation, and if that has been not respected and not if it has been done the copy or something, there should be rights available. So I think that's very important for the entire IP ecosystem, where there are rights for IP protection, rights for the IP enforcement, that balance the IP ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you. Então, mais alguma pergunta?
Any other questions or comments? So I will conclude this panel. All the others are concluding also. So thank you all for your presence. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.